Are you familiar with the Michael Calvas case?
Yes.
He was murdered.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
This investigation has failed to produce any tangible evidence or yield a single suspect.
We feel that your presence in this investigation would be invaluable and would warrant complete reinstatement.
Narc started as a short I did in college called Gunpoint. And the inspiration for the short was Errol Morris's documentary, The Thin Blue Line, which was basically about the murder of a Dallas police officer in 1976. And it just struck me as very profound, this small, isolated incident, you know, this murder of a cop, that then evolved into this great human drama. So I revisited it a number of years later and blew it up into a feature-length script, and from there began kind of making the rounds and trying to get the film made. But something about that small event always fascinated me.
Yeah, that's cool. Is that right? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I never really write for an actor per se, you know, where you put a script together and it becomes, well, I envision this person playing this part. But Ray Liotta was always one of my favorites. I mean, I always held him in really high regard, and I always thought, just in terms of talent, if paychecks in Hollywood ran commensurate to talent level, this guy would be in the top 5, you know. So once the script was put into his hands, he responded immediately. His wife, Michelle Grace, who's also his producing partner, responded. They both became fierce advocates for this particular script, and from there it just began to build. And it took us another year after our initial conversation to finally get the money in place to start shooting the thing.
I read the script, really liked the script, really liked the way it was written. I went and rented his one previous movie because I knew what part of the bargain was, if I wanted to do it, he was going to direct it. So I just wanted to take it the next step because I still wasn't sure, and decided to meet Joe. And then when I met him, that's when it all came into place for me, because I'm a big believer in doing your homework and knowing what it is that you want to do before you even start the project. And I knew that if we were going to get any money for it, it was going to be very minimal, which it was. I mean, we only got like a few $1 million for it. And it was going to be an independent movie, and having done enough independent movies, I knew that the director really had to know what he wanted before he even started.
Lieutenant Oak, per departmental mandate, is restricted from participating in the Calvas investigation any further. He was the first one in the tunnel that day he discovered the body. I like him, but between you and me, he's not stable. We're talking about a marked man.
I always saw Ray as Oak. I thought he was of the age that Oak would be. I thought that Ray was at a point where to do something that was a little more steeped in the kind of the school of the Pacino and De Niro, and where you really just inhabit this role as opposed to playing this guy. Ray really inhabited the role of Oak. I mean, he gained the weight, he allowed himself to be physically distressed and aged up, and the work that was done in his eyes to give him these kind of calloused look, and the ruddiness to his skin, and this great kind of wolfish goatee that he grew. You know, I just thought that he was just the ideal actor for this part, and Ray looks like he's lived life. He looks like he's been through it. He looks like he's, you know, had his share of battles, and that's something I thought were great traits to have in Oak.
The only thing that Joe really wanted that I didn't care one way or the other is he really wanted me to have a goatee. And I never grew one, so it didn't bother me to have a goatee. I just kind of made it big and bushy just to make myself look heavy, because it just felt right and it was inherent in the script.
You don't have the chemistry or the sense God gave goats, which means you didn't do the cook. Now Dowd is dead, so who sold to you?
Whatever, man.
Real fucking smartass, you know that? We're tossing every inch of this place, every inch!
Ray likes to be bold, and
you just let it go. I mean, that was his character. If I was playing another character, I'd probably slap him in the head. But for this, for what he was, it was necessary. And I think this is the role that he's waited, his whole career to play. And we're very different as people, as actors, and I think that makes it a combustible mix.
No, not like this. No, stop. Listen.
I'm gonna get on the horn and call a wagon.
No.
No. I want some time alone with these two. Okay?
All right, yeah, okay.
Jason Patric was one of my early choices, and I just thought, just in terms of actors of his age and his generation, I don't know if there's anybody better than him. And I think he's made a habit of, and he's made a practice of, taking stuff that's really exceptional and only working on films that he really truly believes in.
Carnahan was open to a lot of ideas. That's one of the reasons I decided to do it. Because I had played a junkie cop before, and I wanted to do something that was totally different.
Joe came up with Jason, and we met him, and luckily he was interested, and he was just right. His energy was right. He was mature enough that he wasn't going to try to compete, because my character's very intense and pointing fingers and bullying, and sometimes an actor doesn't allow themselves, their ego comes into it aside from what they're supposed to be doing on screen. And Jason, he's just a solid actor, and he fulfilled his responsibilities with his character like I think I did with mine.
What the fuck are you doing talking to her without me being here?
Brought her husband's things over.
Yeah, you questioned her. What for? What for?
Mother, may I? We said we're gonna do some of this on our
And
own,
some
right?
of this doesn't extend to her, and don't get fucking cute with me.
Both of those guys did the movie for almost no money, comparatively. I mean, they both could go out and get quite a bit more. And I thought at that point I've got two really fantastic blue blood actors, guys that are first and foremost about the craft of acting.
Here we go, guys. Going on.
That's me. 26 Baker, take 2. Mark.
Frank. Action.
We had our first conversation early on. We talked about it. We talked about it in very general terms. And it wasn't really until we arrived in Toronto and started to sit just at the table and talk about motivations and philosophies and character influences and so on and so forth that we really got into the crux of it, and we really started to go beneath the surface and talk about, okay, who is this guy as a man versus this guy? How are they similar? How are they completely different from one another? And that really just evolved. It was just a series of conversations, and it was a lot less about rehearsing and ad-libbing and so on as it was about just talking about the characters, because I think that, to me, was much more valuable than let's sit here and read the script. Let's sit here and go through lines, because I'm also a believer in the idea of try to keep that material as fresh as possible for the day and let that breathe and let that stay as viable as it can and as fresh as it can possibly be. It was much more of a forum to discuss things and talk about the approach.
We didn't have much rehearsal. I mean, we talked through the scenes a couple times, and I think, worked on dialogue that worked and didn't work beforehand. I think if dialogue works and it's good, I like to make it work and not add a bunch of hoes and hums and all that. That's usually comfort for the actor. That's not the character, I feel. And as far as Liotta, I didn't really hang out with him because I just dealt with him as his character. I thought that these are two people who are investigating each other and are connecting with each other as the story goes on, and it's much more interesting to see that happen on screen than backstage, or at the hotel with a few beers.
This is the police!
We had Todd Merrill, who's a narcotics cop for the NYPD, and just having him there on the set and having him take, particularly Jason, put him through the paces and show him the rope, show him how to hold the gun, show him how to take a corner, show him this is how he would move in this environment, this is how he'd move in this environment, was really invaluable, because it lends that level of veracity and truthfulness that I think you want at the end of the day. That's what we were going for. We wanted it to feel as though you're eavesdropping on a real event, and therefore the look of the film should be reflective of that.
He's very enthusiastic, Carnahan. was a script. He didn't consider it Bible. And then once we got it down, we really wanted to make it seem like you're watching a documentary, so that overlap in dialogue, and it's really what we have. We have it all down, but just letting it flow and fresh and having the camera catch just enough pieces of it so that you understand it, but that you're not being dictated to.
Come on, listen, I want to apologize for in there, okay? They get paid to put people on the spot.
I made the money today.
All right, come on, wait, hold on, come on. You're gonna make me fucking chase you, come on, give me 10 seconds.
My wish and goal was to shoot it in Detroit. I wanted to shoot the whole film there. I mean, I think it's like the great American city they gave up on, you know, and because of budgetary restrictions and so forth, we had to go north, which is fine because geographically they're very close to one another, and they're also, the climate of Toronto and Detroit, especially in the winter at that time of the year, is almost identical. And we were actually able to shoot one day in Detroit, which became invaluable. And it was a real guerrilla, you know, we got like 40 or 50 setups in a day just running around Detroit and picking this stuff off. So, and the first shot of the film, the first frame, you know, of Jason Patric was shot in Detroit. And I thought it was important that that shot established it, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the film.
Well, when I went to Detroit, we did is we had to find all these locations, or we just got in a van and tried to find things, and we had a cop with us, and I think we just came up with the idea. I said, look, just wire me up, and I'll stop some of these people on the street. We had a camera, a long lens, in a van, and they wired me up, and the cop that we were with, he actually gave me his badge because my badge was a movie badge. He said, these guys don't know what a fake badge is, they sell them. And we're in a bad area, so he said, you know, you got to really be careful what your hands are. There's a lot of people be holding. They might have a gun, they may have a knife, something. I mean, I'll be behind the van, but it will take me a minute to get there. By that time, I was just so tired and, you know, thrashed from the whole movie experience, it didn't matter. And so that stuff in those montages, when you see me, yeah, it's just people that think they're actually, you know, being questioned by a cop.
Hey! Cut! Got it.
We have shot in the most unbelievable locations I've ever been in. You know, Joe, because he is very visual and knows exactly what he wants, picked very specific locations. I think the only things I've seen in Toronto are probably the worst possible neighborhoods. You know, you're driving to work and you're basically seeing bodies being taken out and taken to the morgue down the street from where we're shooting. And it's amazing. I mean, it's incredible for the movie, but it's incredibly challenging too, to be in these areas and trying to do what you need to do.
I felt, you know, having grown up around that area, that Detroit to me was this great kind of industrial wasteland, and it just had this unique sense of despair and loneliness and desolation and desperation and all those great things. And I thought that these are elements that will work beautifully against Jason's kind of emotional landscape, his whole journey.
I'm taking him in. It's over now. Fucking joke. Your whole career's a complete joke!